Welcome to the Engerati studio. We are located at the Asian Utility Week, and we are privileged to have today with us Mathias Steck. And he is the Senior Vice President and Regional Manager, Energy and Renewables Advisory at DNV GL.
Right.
Quite a mouthful. Did I get everything in?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you enjoying the conference so far?
Well, I'm actually...
It's the first day, but I'm
yeah.
sure you've already had some inroads.
Yeah, no, I had a very interesting session in the morning, actually about renewable grid integration.
Great.
And I'm quite amazed about the number of people over here, so it's a really good event, yes.
Yeah, there does certainly seem to be quite a lot of interest in this market here at the moment.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get started. Your expertise is obviously in renewables and technology. How are renewables changing the technology landscape in Asia?
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of good arguments for renewables. So I think the one thing is obviously it's green, it's environmentally friendly, that is what everybody wants to do now. But it's a very flexible energy source, so you can deploy it very close to your loads. You can actually provide more than only generation to the grid. You can actually provide ancillary services. That's a rather new discussion we have. How do we provide new value with renewables? So especially in Southeast Asia, actually, it's a big chance for countries with low electrification rates to build up generation very fast, relatively cost efficient, and very close to the load where they need it. When you ask me about what do I see for the future, I normally tend to say I see kind of an energy revolution ahead, especially also in the combination with storage.
Let's we just touched briefly on your real expertise or real interest, and that's offshore wind.
Right.
Where do you see this taking off in Asia?
Yeah, so offshore wind is a very interesting journey. I mean, we have this obviously very much mature already in Europe. It was a big fight to get the cost down. That is also a big battle here to get the cost down for offshore wind. But we see, for example, China and India, two countries with a big energy demand, investing quite a lot in offshore wind, having quite aggressive plans for offshore wind. And the big benefit there is, again, for China, for example, you can build offshore wind very close to their load centers. They are all around the coastline, so you get rid of the transmission problem. You have a very good wind resource, or at least quite reasonable wind resource in some provinces in China very well. And India now is exploring how they should take this endeavor in the right way, because they are getting short of good windy sites on land. So they move out offshore and try to get energy from there. So it's expensive maybe from a point of view, like it's a lot of offshore construction work and everything, but it's an interesting component addition to the energy mix, especially of emerging countries.
And are there any interesting projects that are currently on the go within this region as far as offshore wind is concerned?
Yes, so at the moment DNVGL is on behalf of the MNRE, which is the Ministry for New and Renewable Energy in India, and the European Union actually, doing the roadmap for offshore wind in India. So this is something which is planning how to do it. And in China, there is a lot of projects now starting. So you might be aware of the tremendous growth of onshore wind in China. It's unparalleled in the world. I'm quite optimistic that happens with offshore again. And so we are just at the start of this. And so we are involved in about 90% worldwide anyway of the offshore wind projects. And I would say that's roughly the number or the percentage in Asia as well. So,
With regards to renewables, renewable integration into the grid, what are the challenges in this specific region, in the Asian South Pacific region? Are they different from the challenges experienced, for instance, in the States or in Europe? Yeah,
that's a very interesting question, because I don't want to think so much about challenges in that area, rather than opportunities, and especially in Southeast Asia. I think we have a lot of opportunities. The problem we have in the US or in Europe is we have very established systems there: generation, transmission, distribution. It's all quite rigid, and we add now the renewables, and that causes a bit of a problem, although also there we say it's an opportunity. But here you have sometimes electrification rates of 5% in Myanmar, for example, or you have all the Indonesian islands. So the integration of renewables becomes rather a solution to the problem. So one slogan we try to have, apart from safer, smarter, greener energy, is that we need to go beyond integration and do not only look at what's the problem, we need to see what is actually the opportunity of renewables being added to the grid. And then I think we also talked a little bit about smart grids, and actually here in this conference there's a lot about smart grids, because you hear countries like Indonesia, also Thailand, they see this as a very good opportunity to get electrification to areas which are very remote. And a conventional generation would be not a solution. Actually,
and it's a sustainable solution as
exactly.
well.
Yes, exactly. And it's affordable as well. So there is many programs, financing methods also out there which allow the normal person like you and me to invest into generation for your own household, maybe for your own community. So it all gets very real and very close. People care about this, and it really adds a value to a community.
Absolutely. We were just having a chat about the Cleantech Energy Centre in Singapore and its purposes and its aims. Would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, thank you very much for that opportunity. We opened the Clean Technology Centre in Singapore because of these opportunities. So what we have done actually is we go in all the countries where we see growth in renewables, and especially also the merger between DNV and GL was an answer to us wanting to be able to provide services to the entire value chain of generation, renewables, transmission, distribution, and the use of energy. So we had offices in all these countries: Thailand, Australia, China, India, and so on and so forth. But we needed a hub in the middle of Southeast Asia to be able to respond to the demands of all the different countries. So we have built quite a substantial center over there, which is also our Asian headquarter, where we respond to all demands on sustainability, on clean energy, renewable integration, these things. We also have a R&D unit there. So we invest about 5% of our revenue of the group into R&D. A lot of that is done in Singapore to help the countries in Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific as a whole, to be successful in this mission, to get renewables and smart grids and all that stuff realized.
Do you think that there is sufficient government support for the development of renewables in the area? What are your feelings on that? I know each region is probably quite different to the next one, but...
That's absolutely right. I think every government, I would say, has understood the importance.
That's a good start.
Policy and regulations are sometimes a little bit in the way, but this is because people do not fully get the total picture yet. So you see a lot of people talking about the levelized cost of energy. That's the main importance. But actually it's more than this. We need to look at a whole grid and its value. And I think our mission is going into these countries and trying to help this development. So a very direct example maybe is here in Thailand. We have spoken to a few utilities. They have a very simplistic view of the generation model of renewables. Well, if they model renewable integration into their grids based on this view, they get it wrong, and they might think it's much more difficult than it actually is. So we think we need to help to go there and help to show how it really is, and help them to understand the matter, simulate the matter. And I think they like this quite a lot. I spoke to a PA this morning, and they had an amazing conclusion. They said it is not possible without renewables. It is challenging us quite a bit, but it's not possible to go forward without renewables. So that's actually perfect.
That's perfect, and I think it will have a knock-on effect. You know, one region will see success, and then the next one will say, well, they can do it. You know, why can't we? And I've seen that now at the African Utility Week, where a lot are looking at the independent power producer, the bids coming through in South Africa, and they're realizing that actually this is quite possible in other parts of Africa as well. So there probably will be this knock-on effect as one reaches a successful point. The next will probably also want to reach that same goal. What are your intentions, or what do you hope to achieve at the event this year?
Well, this year we are hosting actually quite a lot of sessions here, and I try to achieve that I get in contact with as many people as possible, listening to as many presentations as possible. We are always very keen to listen to the problems which are around, and I want to go back home with a lot of new ideas of what are the areas to be tackled, so that I can come back and talk to the people in a couple of weeks and hopefully then provide solutions to them.
Great. Last question.
Yes.
What is your message that you want to bring across to the power sector as a whole in this region?
Right. I think the one thing is our mission is really the safer, smarter, greener energy and transforming into this.
Yeah.
And I want people to not meet and discuss the challenges. I want people to meet to really go this step further and say we have a chance, and these renewables are helping us to achieve our growth, the environment we want to protect. Yeah, my final advice really would be to say go beyond integration. When we talk about renewables, we don't want to recognize it as a big challenge. We want to recognize it as an opportunity, and it actually is. You see equity firms which are investing big time in renewables because they can make money. You see people investing with their private money on the, for example, solar rooftop for their own house, because it adds security for their generation. It has become affordable, it's reliable. So it's quite a big chance for this area to grow and to bring wealthiness and a quite good life to every individual in Southeast Asia.
Absolutely, opportunities all round, a win-win situation for both utilities and customers. Really.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's always nice to speak to you. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. There are other videos that you can click onto, interviews done with utilities and vendors. Do enjoy those. Thank you for joining us.